Sarah Chen had been sitting in the small break room of the intelligence agency's regional office for 3 hours, watching her colleagues get called out one by one. Each time a supervisor appeared at the door with a folder, her heart would jump, thinking this was finally her moment. But each time, they called someone else's name. Martinez, Rodriguez, even Jenkins, who had only been there for 6 months. Never Chen. She pretended to focus on her coffee, stirring it long after the sugar had dissolved. The liquid had gone cold an hour ago, but she kept the cup in her hands anyway. Something to hold on to while she waited for a call that probably wouldn't come. Through the window, she could see the main operations floor where the real work happened. Analysts hunched over computers, field agents receiving their briefings. Everyone moving with purpose while she sat frozen in this limbo. The mission board had been posted that morning. Operation Lighthouse, they called it. A high-value target had been spotted in a border town, someone the agency had been tracking for 18 months. Every available agent was being mobilized. Sarah had read the brief 3 times, memorizing every detail, even though her name wasn't on the deployment list. She couldn't help herself. It was the biggest operation their office had seen in years, and she desperately wanted to be part of it. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother asking about dinner this weekend. Sarah typed a quick reply, grateful for the distraction. Her mother still thought she worked in data analysis for a private security firm. Technically true, but it left out the part about working for a government intelligence agency. The lies had become easier over the years, though they never stopped feeling heavy. Captain Morrison walked past the break room, his arms full of equipment cases. He nodded at Sarah through the glass, but didn't stop. She nodded back, maintaining the professional smile she'd perfected. Morrison was leading the operation. She'd worked under him twice before, both times on minor surveillance tasks that went nowhere. He was good at his job, fair, but distant. The kind of leader who remembered your face, but not always your name. The clock on the wall ticked toward noon. Sarah pulled out her tablet and opened her case files, trying to look productive. She had 3 active investigations, all low-priority background checks that could wait. Nothing urgent, nothing that mattered. This was her life at the agency. Endless waiting punctuated by paperwork that anyone could do. She hadn't always been relegated to the sidelines. 2 years ago, fresh out of training, she'd been full of fire and ambition. Top of her class in tactical analysis, second in field exercises, fluent in 3 languages with working knowledge of 2 more. Her instructors had written glowing reviews. She was going to be somebody, make a difference, do the kind of work that actually saved lives. Then came the Morocco incident. A simple extraction that went wrong because of bad intelligence from another department. Sarah had been part of the backup team, hadn't even been in the building when it happened. But her supervisor at the time, a man named Kowalski, who later took early retirement, had needed someone to blame. He'd written a report suggesting Sarah had misread a communication, caused a delay that compromised the operation. It wasn't true. An internal review had cleared her, but the stain remained. After that, the good assignments dried up. Sarah found herself on perpetual bench duty, called in only when everyone else was already deployed. She'd filed complaints, requested transfers, even considered quitting. But her direct supervisor, Agent Davis, kept telling her to be patient. "Your time will come," he'd say. "Just keep your head down and do good work." So she waited. Months turned into a year, then 2. She watched younger agents leapfrog past her, getting the field assignments and commendations, while she processed background checks and wrote reports nobody read. Her apartment walls were covered with maps and news clippings. Her own private investigation board tracking cases she wasn't officially assigned to. She studied at night, keeping her skills sharp, refusing to let the desk work dull her edge. The break room door opened. Agent Davis stood there, his expression unreadable. Sarah's pulse quickened. Davis never came to the break room unless something was happening. "Chen," he said. "Conference room." Now, she stood so quickly she nearly knocked over her cold coffee. This was it. Maybe they needed an extra analyst for the operation. Maybe someone had dropped out and they needed a replacement. Sarah grabbed her tablet and followed Davis through the office. past the curious stares of her colleagues. The conference room was empty except for them. Davis closed the door and pulled down the blinds, blocking the view from outside. Sarah's excitement dimmed slightly. This level of privacy usually meant bad news, not opportunity. "Sit down," Davis said. She sat. He remained standing, pacing in front of the whiteboard covered with mission parameters she couldn't quite read from this angle. "What do you know about Operation Lighthouse?" he asked. "Only what was on the morning brief," Sarah said carefully. "High-value target, border town operation, full mobilization." Davis nodded. "And you noticed you weren't on the roster." It wasn't a question, but Sarah answered anyway. "Yes, sir. It's because you weren't supposed to be," Davis said. He stopped pacing and looked at her directly. "The roster was finalized a week ago. Every position filled, every role assigned. Morrison's team is tight, everyone he personally selected." Sarah's heart sank. So this was just another conversation about patience, about waiting for her next opportunity. She'd heard it all before, but Davis wasn't finished. 10 minutes ago, I got a call from headquarters. From the director's office." He paused, letting that sink in. The director of the entire agency, 3 levels above Davis, calling about a regional operation. "They want you on this mission." Sarah blinked. "What? You're being added to the team?" "Effective immediately. But you just said the roster was finalized, that Morrison selected everyone." "Did. And he's not happy about this. Neither are half the people in operations. You're being inserted into a complete team structure that's already trained together, already established their protocols." Davis crossed his arms. "This came from above everyone, Chen. Above Morrison, above me, above our regional director. Someone very high up wants you on this operation, and they didn't ask for permission." Sarah's mind raced. The director's office didn't involve itself in regional operations unless something extraordinary was happening. And they certainly didn't override field commanders to insert individual agents. "Why?" she asked. "That's what everyone wants to know," Davis said, "including me." The order didn't include an explanation, just that you're to be given a full briefing and integrated into the team immediately. He leaned against the table. "Chen, I'm going to be straight with you. This is either the best thing that could happen to your career, or it's going to end it. Having this kind of spotlight on you, being forced onto a team that doesn't want you there, coming in at the last minute. If this operation goes sideways, you'll be the first person they look at." "I understand, sir. Do you?" Davis moved closer. "Because I need you to really understand. People are going to assume you're someone's pet project, that you pulled strings, or know somebody important. They're going to watch your every move waiting for you to fail. And if this operation succeeds, they'll find ways to minimize your contribution. If it fails, you'll take the blame." Sarah met his eyes. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've watched you for 2 years, stuck in a holding pattern you don't deserve. You're better than the work we've been giving you." Davis straightened up. "And because I want you to know what you're walking into. You can still say no. I can tell headquarters you're not available, that you're tied up in another investigation. They'd probably just pick someone else." The offer hung in the air between them. Sarah could walk away, keep her safe position, wait for a normal opportunity to come along. Or she could take this mysterious assignment that came from the very top of the agency, walk into a team that resented her presence and risk everything. She thought about her apartment walls covered in maps, about the training sessions she ran alone after hours, about the 2 years of coffee cups and cold calls and watching other people do the work she was trained for. "When's the briefing?" Sarah asked. Davis smiled slightly. 30 minutes. I'll walk you down to operations." They left the conference room together. As they moved through the office, Sarah could feel eyes on her. Word had already spread. The looks ranged from curious to hostile. Jenkins, who'd been called up that morning, stared at her with open confusion. Martinez whispered something to Rodriguez, both of them watching Sarah pass. The operations floor was controlled chaos. Agents gathered equipment, checked weapons, reviewed maps on digital displays. Morrison stood at the center of it all, orchestrating the deployment. He saw Sarah and Davis approaching, and his expression tightened. "Captain," Davis said. Agent Chen is ready for her briefing. Morrison looked at Sarah like she was a problem he hadn't asked for, but was stuck solving. The team meets in briefing room 2. Don't be late. He turned back to his displays without waiting for a response. Sarah had exactly 25 minutes before she walked into a room full of people who didn't want her there. On a mission she knew nothing about, ordered by someone she'd never met for reasons nobody would explain. She headed to her desk to grab her gear, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed her. Whatever was happening, whatever reason the director's office had for putting her on this mission, she was going to prove she belonged there. The waiting was over. Now came the hard part. The briefing room felt smaller than usual. It's packed with 15 agents who all turned to stare when Sarah entered. She recognized most of them. Williams and Foster from Tactical. Chen knew Dr. Patel, the technical specialist who could hack anything with a circuit board. Agent Brooks from Communications, Thompson from Logistics. These were the best operators in the regional office, and they all had the same question in their eyes. What are you doing here? Sarah took the only empty seat near the back. Nobody moved to make room or acknowledge her presence. The cold shoulder was so obvious, it might as well have been written on the walls. She pulled out her tablet and kept her expression neutral, pretending this was just another day at work. Morrison entered last, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. He moved to the front of the room where a large display showed satellite imagery of a small town built into rocky hillside terrain. "Listen up," Morrison said, his voice cutting through the murmur of conversation. "We roll out in 4 hours. That gives us exactly enough time to integrate our last-minute addition and adjust positions accordingly." His eyes found Sarah. The message was clear. This delay was her fault. He clicked a remote, and the display zoomed in on a cluster of buildings. Target is Victor Crane, former intelligence operative turned arms dealer. We've been tracking him for 18 months through 6 countries. 3 days ago, our assets confirmed he's holed up in this compound in the border town of Granite Falls. Sarah leaned forward, absorbing every detail. She'd heard of Crane. Everyone in intelligence had. He'd been one of them once. A decorated field agent who disappeared 7 years ago with classified information and a list of deep cover operatives. At least 4 agents had been compromised because of him. 2 were dead. Crane isn't just selling weapons, Morrison continued. He's selling information. Names, locations, operational details. Everything he stole and everything he's learned since. Our intelligence suggests he's meeting a buyer tomorrow night. We intercept before that happens. The display changed to show building layouts and approach routes. We have 3 teams. Alpha approaches from the north, secures the perimeter. Bravo takes the east entrance, extracts any civilians. Charlie team, that's my unit, enters through the main building and locates Crane. Questions? Williams raised his hand. What about the local authorities? They've been notified we're running an operation in their jurisdiction, but not given specifics. If things go loud, we have a 30-minute window before they respond. Morrison glanced at his watch. Which brings me to our change in personnel. The room's attention shifted to Sarah. She kept her spine straight. Refusing to shrink under the scrutiny, Chen will be joining Charlie's team as tactical analyst, Morrison said. The words came out flat like he was reading a grocery list. She'll be monitoring communications and providing real-time intelligence assessment from the mobile command post. Sarah's stomach dropped. Command post duty. They were sticking her in a van a mile away from the action. The kind of assignment given to rookies and people they didn't trust in the field. She trained for entry operations, for tactical response, for everything Charlie team would be doing. Instead, she'd be watching through cameras and radios while everyone else did the real work. But she couldn't protest. Not here, not in front of the entire team. That would only confirm their suspicions that she was trouble. Any issues with that? Morrison asked, though his tone made it clear there better not be. No, sir, Sarah said. The briefing continued for another hour. Morrison detailed every aspect of the operation with military precision. Guard rotations, sight lines, backup protocols, emergency extraction routes. Sarah took notes on everything, building a mental map of the mission. If she was going to be stuck in a command post, she'd be the best analyst they'd ever had. When Morrison dismissed them, the team filed out quickly. Sarah started to follow, but Morrison's voice stopped her.
Ouch, stay.
She turned back as the door closed behind the last agent. Morrison stood at the front of the room, arms crossed, studying her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. "You want to tell me why you're really here?" he asked. "I don't know, sir. Agent Davis told me the order came from headquarters, but he didn't have details." Morrison walked closer. "I've been running operations for 12 years. I've never had headquarters insert someone into my team without explanation. Never had the director's office override my personnel decisions." He stopped a few feet away. "So either you're incredibly important or you're incredibly dangerous. Which is it?" "Neither, sir. I'm just trying to do my job. Your job was background checks and analysis. Now suddenly you're on the biggest operation this office has run in 2 years, brought in by people who won't explain why?" Morrison's expression softened slightly. "Look, I read your file. I know about Morocco, and I know you got a raw deal. But I also know that when mysterious orders come from above, it usually means politics, and politics get people killed."
Else.
Sarah met his gaze. "I didn't ask for this. I believe you. But that doesn't change the situation." Morrison pulled up a chair and sat down, gesturing for Sarah to do the same. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit in that command post, monitor communications, and provide analysis when requested. You're not going to improvise. You're not going to suggest field adjustments. And you're absolutely not going to do anything that puts my team at risk. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Because if this operation fails, they're going to look for someone to blame. And the mysterious agent who showed up at the last minute is going to be at the top of that list." Morrison stood. "Get your gear and report to Thompson. He'll set you up with the mobile unit." Sarah left the briefing room feeling like she'd been slapped. She understood Morrison's position. From his perspective, she was an unknown variable inserted into a carefully planned operation. He had every right to be cautious, but it still stung. The equipment room was busy with agents checking out gear. Sarah signed for a tactical vest, communications headset, and portable computer system. The quartermaster, a grizzled man named Patterson, barely looked at her as he processed the requisition. "First time in the field?" he asked. "No," Sarah said. "But first time on this kind of operation." Patterson grunted and handed her a small black case. "Sidearm. Standard issue. You know how to use it?" Sarah took the case. "Yes. Good. Don't shoot any of our people." He turned to help the next agent in line, dismissing her. Sarah found a quiet corner and opened the case. The weapon was clean, well-maintained, loaded with a full magazine. She checked the action, tested the sight, and secured it in her vest holster. The familiar weight was reassuring, even if she'd probably never need to draw it from inside a command post van. "So you're the mystery woman." Sarah looked up to find Dr. Patel leaning against the wall, watching her with curious eyes. Unlike the others, Patel didn't seem hostile. "Just interested." "Something like that," Sarah said. "I did a little digging," Patel said conversationally. "Not into you, don't worry. Into why headquarters would make such an unusual move? You know what I found?" "What?" "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. No paper trail, no emails, no documentation beyond the bare order adding you to the roster." Patel smiled. "That level of scrubbing doesn't happen by accident. Someone very powerful wants you on this mission, and they don't want anyone knowing why." Sarah closed the weapon case. "I wish I knew who. You really don't know." Patel studied her face. "Interesting. Well, whoever your guardian angel is, they've put you in a difficult position. The team sees you as an outsider. Morrison sees you as a liability. And if anything goes wrong, you'll be the convenient scapegoat." "Thanks for the encouragement," Sarah said dryly. Patel laughed. "I'm just being honest. But here's something else to consider. What if whoever put you here knows something we don't? What if there's a reason you specifically need to be on this operation?" That thought had been nagging at Sarah since Davis first told her about the assignment. Why her? She wasn't the most experienced analyst. She didn't have special skills the others lacked. There had to be a reason, something she was missing. I need to prep my equipment, Patel said, pushing off the wall. But Chen? Watch your back out there. Not all the threats come from the target. Sarah spent the next 2 hours getting familiar with the mobile command post, specially equipped van packed with communications gear and computer systems. Thompson showed her the setup with professional efficiency, explaining the camera feeds, radio frequencies, and data links to headquarters. He wasn't friendly, but he wasn't hostile either. Just another operator doing his job. You'll be running analysis from Station 2, Thompson explained, pointing to a workstation with multiple screens. Primary job is monitoring communications and flagging anything unusual. Secondary is providing intelligence support if Morrison requests it. You do not, under any circumstances, transmit to the field teams unless specifically asked. Clear. Clear. Good. We leave in 90 minutes. Make sure you're ready. Sarah used the time to review every piece of intelligence they had on Crane. She read the original reports from when he disappeared, studied the pattern of his movements since then, analyzed the known associates, and confirmed deals. The more she learned, the more something bothered her. Crane was careful, paranoid even. He never stayed in one place longer than 48 hours. He used cutouts and proxies for all his deals. He'd evaded multiple intelligence agencies across 3 continents. So why would he stay in one location for 3 days, especially with a meeting scheduled that he knew would draw attention? Sarah pulled up the satellite imagery again, studying the compound. Standard 2-story structure, reinforced doors, limited sight lines. Defensible, but not impregnable. No underground tunnels or escape routes visible, though that didn't mean they didn't exist. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong, but she had nothing concrete to support it. Just a feeling, and feelings weren't intelligence. Morrison would ignore anything she reported unless she had hard evidence. Chen, time to roll, Thompson called from the front of the van. Sarah secured her gear and took her position at Station 2. Through the van's windshield, she could see the other teams loading into vehicles. Morrison was giving last-minute instructions to his squad leaders. Everyone moved with the confidence of professionals who'd trained together, who trusted each other. Everyone except her. The convoy pulled out as the sun began setting, casting long shadows across the compound. Sarah checked her systems one more time, making sure everything was functioning properly. For hours from now, they'd be in position. 6 hours from now, the operation would either be complete or compromised. She thought about what Patel had said. Someone powerful wanted her on this mission. Someone who'd bypassed every normal channel to make it happen. But why? Sarah pulled up Crane's file one more time, studying his face on the screen. Whatever was about to happen, whatever reason she'd been inserted into this operation, she needed to be ready. The waiting was over. Now came the test. The convoy stopped 2 miles from the target compound just after midnight. Sarah watched through the van's windows as Morrison's teams dispersed into the darkness, each unit moving to their assigned positions with practiced silence. Within minutes, the only visible presence was the mobile command post. Parked behind a ridge that blocked them from the target's sight lines, Thompson activated the communications array, and Sarah's screens came alive with data. Camera feeds from the surveillance drones overhead showed the compound in infrared, revealing heat signatures of at least 8 people inside. Radio chatter crackled softly as the teams confirmed their positions. Alpha team in position, Williams reported. His squad had the north perimeter, cutting off any escape routes in that direction. Bravo team set, Foster's voice followed. They held the east approach, ready to handle civilians if any were present. Charlie team ready, Morrison said. His was the strike force, the team that would breach the building and secure Crane. Sarah could see them on the drone feed. Shadows moving through the rocky terrain toward the main entrance. Sarah's role was simple. Monitor everything, analyze patterns, and report anomalies. She pulled up the building schematics alongside the live feeds, tracking each team's progress. Her training kicked in automatically, her mind processing tactical data even though she wasn't in the field. Command, this is Charlie Lead. Morrison's voice came through her headset. We have visual on the target building. 2 guards outside, both armed. No unusual activity. Copy that, Charlie Lead, Thompson responded from the driver's seat. He was the official communications officer, the voice the field teams heard. Sarah was supposed to remain silent unless specifically asked for input, but something was bothering her. Sarah pulled up the compound's floor plan again, comparing it to the heat signatures from the drone. 8 people inside, Morrison had said. But according to the intelligence brief, Crane traveled with a security team of 4, maybe 5. 8 was too many, especially for someone who prioritized staying invisible. She zoomed in on the thermal imaging. The heat signatures were distributed oddly, clustered in groups rather than spread throughout the building. 2 on the ground floor near the entrance, 3 more in what should be the living area, 2 upstairs in separate rooms, and 1 more signature fainter than the others. In the basement, Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard, cross-referencing the building plans with previous surveillance. There it was, a detail that had been overlooked. The basement space was larger than it should be, extending beyond the building's foundation. There was additional structure underground, probably added after the original construction. Charlie T moving to breach in 30 seconds, Morrison reported. Sarah's pulse quickened. If there was additional underground space, there could be escape tunnels they didn't know about. Crane could slip away while they were securing the main building. She needed to tell Morrison, but she'd been explicitly ordered not to transmit unless asked. All teams stand by, Thompson said into his microphone. Breach in 15 seconds. Sarah made a decision. She activated her communication link. Command, this is Chen. I need to report a potential issue. Thompson spun in his seat, glaring at her. Chen, what are you doing? Radio silence unless requested. There's additional underground structure we didn't account for, Sarah said quickly. The basement extends beyond the building footprint. Could be escape routes? That's not confirmed intelligence, Thompson snapped. Don't clutter the channel with speculation. On the screen, Morrison's team reached the entrance. The 2 guards went down silently, taken out by Brooks with precision shots from a suppressed weapon. The team stacked up at the door. Charlie team breaching now, Morrison said. The door exploded inward. Sarah watched the helmet cameras as Charlie team flooded into the building. Moving through the ground floor with tactical precision, shouts in multiple languages, the sound of bodies hitting the ground. Within 90 seconds, they'd secured the first floor. Ground floor clear, Morrison reported. 5 targets secured, none matching primary. Bravo team status? Thompson asked. We've got civilians exiting the east side, Foster responded. 3 non-combatants, looking scared. Taking them into custody? Morrison's team moved upstairs. Sarah tracked them on multiple camera angles, her fingers poised over her keyboard. The heat signatures showed to people in separate rooms, both still in place. Why weren't they reacting to the breach? Upstairs rooms, Morrison's voice was tense. Weapons ready. They kicked in the first door. Sarah heard Morrison curse. Room 1 is empty. Negative on target. The second room yielded the same result. Empty, command. We have a problem, Morrison said. Heat signatures showing bodies upstairs, but the rooms are empty. Someone's using thermal decoys. Sarah's stomach dropped. She pulled up the basement feed again. The faint signature was still there, but now she understood. It wasn't faint because it was far away. It was faint because whoever was down there knew how to mask their thermal output. Charlie lead. Check the basement, Sarah transmitted, ignoring Thompson's angry gesture. The underground structure extends beyond the building. There may be an exit tunnel. For a moment, there was only static. Then Morrison's voice came back, sharp and focused. Charlie, 2 and 3 with me. Everyone else, secure the perimeter. If Chen's right, target may be attempting to flee underground. Sarah brought up every camera angle she could, trying to see into the basement, but the feeds showed nothing useful. The team was moving too fast, their helmet cameras bouncing with motion as they descended the stairs. Contact, someone shouted. Gunfire erupted, the sound distorting through the communication system. Sarah's screens filled with chaos. Muzzle flashes in the darkness. Morrison's team taking cover behind basement walls. Return fire coming from deeper in the structure, from angles that shouldn't exist according to the original floor plans. We've got a tunnel, Morrison confirmed between shots. Heads up, Alpha Team. Target may be trying to exit on your side. Alpha Team repositioning, Williams responded. Sarah pulled up the terrain map, trying to predict where an underground tunnel might surface. The compound was built into a hillside, which meant the tunnel would likely follow the slope. North and east were too steep. That left west or south, and south made more sense tactically. Alpha Team suggests you cover the south ridge, Sarah transmitted. Terrain analysis indicates that's the most likely exit point. Thompson was no longer trying to stop her. He'd moved to his own workstation, coordinating with local authorities to establish a wider perimeter. The operation had gone from surgical strike to active pursuit. Command, I have visual on a subject exiting south side, Williams reported. Male, 40s, matches the target description. He's heading for the tree line. All teams converge on Alpha's position, Morrison ordered. Do not let him reach those trees. Sarah watched it unfold on the drone feed. A figure running across open ground, moving fast despite the rocky terrain. 3 agents pursuing from different angles, trying to cut off escape routes. The target was good, using every bit of cover available, but he was running out of options. Then everything went wrong. The pursuing agents were 30 meters from the target when the explosion lit up the night. Sarah's screens whited out from the flash, and when they cleared, she saw 3 agents down, smoke rising from where they'd been standing. Someone screamed into the radio. He booby-trapped the approach. Medical, get to Alpha's position now. Morrison's voice cut through the panic. Target is still mobile, heading northeast. All units pursue, but watch for additional explosives. Sarah's mind raced. Crane had planned for this. The thermal decoys, the tunnel, the explosives. He'd known they were coming and prepared accordingly. But how? Their operation had been classified, restricted to a small group, unless... She pulled up the mission timeline, looking at when intelligence had confirmed Crane's presence. 3 days ago. That was too long for someone as paranoid as Crane to stay in one place, unless he had a reason. Unless he was waiting for something. Or someone. Thompson, Sarah said urgently. I think this is a trap. Crane's been expecting us. It's impossible, Thompson said, but his expression showed doubt. The intel was solid. Too solid, Sarah said, pulling up the source documentation. Look at this. The tip came through a single source, confirmed by surveillance, but the pattern is wrong. Crane never stays visible this long. He wanted us to find him. Morrison's voice came through, breathless from running. Command, target has reached a vehicle. Black SUV, heading east on the access road. We need roadblocks now. Sarah switched to satellite view, tracking the vehicle's path. The access road led to the main highway, but there were several turns before it reached the junction. If they could predict which route he'd take, they could set up an intercept. She analyzed the road network, overlaying it with known safe house locations and border crossing points. 3 possible routes, but only one made tactical sense if Crane was trying to reach international territory quickly. Charlie led. Target will most likely take the northern route at the junction, Sarah transmitted. It's the fastest path to the border. If you can get a vehicle to checkpoint 7, you can cut him off. Bravo team, you're closest to checkpoint 7, Morrison responded. Move now. Sarah watched the chase unfold across multiple screens. Morrison's team loading into their vehicles, racing to catch up. Bravo team repositioning to the checkpoint. The target's SUV, moving fast on the winding road, but not fast enough to outrun a coordinated intercept. We've got wounded, a medic reported from Alpha's position. 2 serious, 1 critical. Need immediate evac. Thompson was already coordinating with local hospitals, getting ambulances dispatched to their location. Sarah kept her focus on the pursuit, tracking every variable, looking for the angle she was missing. Because she was still missing something. Crane wouldn't run blindly. He'd have a backup plan, another escape route. She pulled up everything they knew about his methods, his previous escapes, his patterns. They're a detail in one of the old reports. Crane had used a decoy vehicle in Prague, leading pursuers on a chase while he slipped away in a different car. Simple but effective. Morrison, be advised, Sarah transmitted. Target has used vehicle swaps in previous escapes. The SUV might be a decoy. Copy that, Morrison responded. Maintain surveillance on all vehicles in the area. Sarah switched the drone to wide area scan. Multiple vehicles on the roads, most of them civilian traffic. But there, 200 meters behind the target SUV, smaller sedan maintained a steady pace, neither closing distance nor falling behind. Got a possible secondary vehicle, Sarah reported. Gray sedan, license plate hotel, -Delta, -7, -2, -9. Maintaining consistent distance from primary target, check the registration, Morrison ordered. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing the motor vehicle database. The sedan was registered to a holding company, the same type of shell corporation Crane used for his other operations. Registration matches Target's known business entities, she confirmed. Bravo team, checkpoint 7 in position, Foster reported. We have eyes on the approaching vehicle. The SUV appeared on Bravo team's body cameras racing toward their position. They'd set up a tactical roadblock, vehicles positioned to force the SUV to stop or crash. As it got closer, Sarah could see the driver clearly through the windshield. Her blood went cold. Morrison, that's not Crane. The driver is too young. Wrong build. Bravo team. Stop that vehicle, but approach with caution, Morrison ordered. Maybe a decoy. The SUV screeched to a halt, blocked by the roadblock. Agents surrounded it, weapons drawn. The driver stepped out with his hands up, and Sarah's screen showed a young man. He's terrified and clearly not Victor Crane. Driver is not the target, Foster confirmed. He claims someone paid him $500 to drive this route. He has no idea who hired him. The sedan, Sarah said, switching the drone focus. Where's the sedan? But the gray car had vanished. While everyone focused on the SUV, it had turned off onto a side road, one too small to show on the standard maps. Sarah rewound the footage, finding the exact moment it disappeared. The driver had timed it perfectly, waiting until all eyes were on the dramatic chase before slipping away. Target used the SUV as a distraction, Sarah reported. Gray sedan turned west on an unmarked access road approximately 2 kilometers from checkpoint 7. I've lost visual, Morrison swore. All teams, pursue west. Thompson, get us aerial coverage on that sector. But Sarah was already ahead of him, redirecting the drone to search the western routes. The road the sedan had taken led into rougher terrain, eventually connecting to a network of old mining roads that crisscrossed the region. Perfect for someone who needed to disappear. Morrison, he's heading for the old mining district, Sarah said, pulling up historical maps. Multiple exit points, dozens of abandoned buildings for cover. If he reaches that area, we'll lose him. How long do we have? Sarah calculated the distance and probable speed. 8 minutes? Maybe 10? That's not enough time for us to intercept, Morrison said, frustration clear in his voice. Charlie team is 15 minutes out, Bravo team 20. By the time we get there, he'll be gone. Lara stared at the map, her mind working through possibilities. The mobile command post was 7 minutes from the mining district's main entrance. If they moved now, if they could get ahead of Crane instead of chasing behind him, they might have a chance. Thompson, how fast can this van move? She asked. Thompson looked at her like she'd lost her mind. You want to pursue an armed fugitive in a communications van? I want to block his escape route before he reaches it, Sarah said. We're the only asset close enough to intercept. Morrison's voice came through the radio. Command, what's your status? Sarah made eye contact with Thompson. The communications officer looked at her, looked at the map, and made a decision. Command is mobile. He transmitted to Morrison. We're moving to intercept at the mining district entrance. Negative command. You're not equipped for engagement, Morrison responded. We're not engaging, we're blocking, Thompson said, already moving to the driver's seat. Someone needs to slow him down long enough for the teams to catch up. Sarah strapped into her workstation as Thompson gunned the engine. The van lurched forward, accelerating down the rough road. Equipment rattled and swayed. Sarah kept her eyes on the screens, tracking the sedan's projected path. They had maybe 5 minutes before Crane reached the mining district. 5 minutes to get into position? To figure out how a communications van could stop a trained operative who'd evaded capture for 7 years? Sarah checked her sidearm, making sure it was secure in its holster. Patterson's words echoed in her mind. Don't shoot any of our people. She hadn't expected to draw her weapon tonight. Hadn't expected to be directly confronting the target. But circumstances had changed, and Sarah was done watching from the sidelines. The van skidded around a turn, headlights cutting through the darkness. Somewhere ahead, Victor Crane was racing toward what he thought was freedom. Sarah intended to prove him wrong. The van's tires screamed as Thompson took another curve too fast. Sarah braced herself against the workstation, keeping her eyes locked on the screen showing the sedan's projected route. They were close now, less than 2 minutes from the mining district entrance. But Crane was close too, maybe 3 minutes behind them if her calculations were correct. What's the plan? Thompson asked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Sarah studied the entrance to the mining district on her screen. A single road led in, flanked by steep rock faces on both sides. Natural choke point. If they could block that road, Crane would have to stop or find another route, buying time for Morrison's teams to catch up. We park across the road, Sarah said. Make it impossible for him to get through without stopping. And when he stops, we stall him. Talk. Negotiate. Whatever it takes to keep him in place for 5 minutes. Thompson glanced at her. You know he's going to have weapons. Probably explosives, too, after that IED demonstration. I know. They reached the entrance. Thompson spun the van sideways, blocking the entire road. Sarah immediately started reviewing everything she knew about Victor Crane. Former agent, highly trained, paranoid, but also intelligent. He'd been one of them once. That had to count for something. Morrison, we're in position, Thompson transmitted. Target should arrive in approximately 90 seconds. Command, do not engage directly, Morrison ordered. Your job is to block and delay. My team is 7 minutes out. 7 minutes. Sarah checked her weapon again. 7 minutes of keeping a desperate, dangerous man from escaping. 7 minutes of being the only thing between Crane and freedom. Chen, Thompson said quietly, you should know something. I pulled your file before this operation. I know what happened in Morocco. That supervisor, Kowalski, he did the same thing to another agent 3 years before you. Filed false reports to cover his own mistakes. Sarah looked at him, surprised. Why are you telling me this? Because everyone's been treating you like you're incompetent, or connected, or both. But I think you're just someone who got screwed over and kept working anyway. That takes guts. Thompson checked his own sidearm. So whatever happens in the next few minutes, I've got your back. Headlights appeared in the distance, moving fast. Sarah's pulse jumped. Contact. Vehicle approaching. They both exited the van, using it as cover. Sarah positioned herself behind the driver's side, weapon drawn, but pointed down. Thompson took the passenger side, his stance professional but non-threatening. The idea was to look official, not aggressive. To make Crane think this was a checkpoint, not a trap. The sedan slowed as it approached, headlights illuminating the van blocking the road. Sarah could see the driver clearly now. Late 40s, dark hair graying at the temples, wearing civilian clothes. Victor Crane, in the flesh. He looked different from his file photos, older and more weathered. But it was definitely him. The sedan stopped 30 meters away. The engine stayed running. Crane sat motionless behind the wheel, evaluating the situation. Sarah knew what he was seeing. 2 agents, 1 van, no backup visible. He was calculating odds, considering whether he could ram through or needed to find another solution. Victor Crane, Sarah called out. I'm Agent Chen with Intelligence Operations. You need to step out of the vehicle. Crane's window rolled down halfway. Agent Chen, he called back. I don't think we've met. Though I have to say, I'm impressed with your analysis tonight. That business, with the thermal decoys, almost worked. Sarah kept her weapon ready, but not raised. You knew we were coming. Of course I knew. You think I stay ahead of 3 intelligence agencies by being careless? Crane shifted in his seat. I've had surveillance on your office for weeks. I knew about Operation Lighthouse before Morrison finished planning it. Then why stay? Why not disappear before we arrived? Crane laughed, the sound carrying across the distance between them. Because sometimes the best way to deal with a problem is to lead it exactly where you want it. Your people are scattered across 5 kilometers, chasing shadows while I'm having this pleasant conversation with the one person who actually figured out my plan. Sarah's mind raced. He was too calm, too confident. This wasn't the behavior of someone who'd been caught. You wanted us to chase you? Very good. Yes, I wanted you to chase me. Wanted Morrison's team spread thin, wanted your resources committed, wanted everyone focused on me. Crane opened his door slowly, keeping his hands visible. Because while everyone's been watching Victor Crane, nobody's been watching what's really important. Thompson tensed beside the van. Stay in the vehicle, he ordered. But Crane was already out, standing beside the sedan with his hands raised. Relax, Agent Thompson. I'm not going to shoot anyone. I'm going to make Agent Chen an offer. We're not interested in deals, Sarah said. You should be. Because in approximately 3 minutes, your headquarters is going to receive a data dump. Names, operations, classified protocols, everything I took 7 years ago, plus everything I've learned since. It's set to upload automatically unless I enter a code to stop it. You're bluffing. Am I? Pull out your phone. Call your director. Tell them to check for incoming data from an unknown source. I'll wait. Sarah glanced at Thompson. He was already on his radio, urgently contacting Morrison. Sarah pulled out her secure phone and dialed Davis. He answered on the first ring. Chen, what's happening out there? Sir, I need you to check if headquarters is receiving any unusual data uploads. What? Why would Davis paused? Sarah heard him typing. Hold on. There's something coming in now. Large file transfer from an unidentified source. How did you know? Because Crane says he's dumping classified information. He claims he can stop it if we let him go. Davis swore. Stay on the line. Sarah kept her weapon trained on Crane while Davis confirmed with headquarters. The former agent stood calmly by his car, looking almost amused by the situation. He'd planned this perfectly, Sarah realized. The chase, the confrontation, everything calculated to put them in exactly this position. Chen Davis came back on the line. Headquarters confirms the upload is happening. They're trying to block it, but whoever set this up knows our systems. They're estimating 2 minutes before the first files are fully transferred. Can they stop it? Not in time. The director wants to talk to Crane. Sarah lowered her phone slightly. My director wants to negotiate. I'm sure he does, Crane said. But I'm not negotiating with him. I'm negotiating with you. Why me? Because you're the one who wasn't supposed to be here tonight. You're the variable I didn't account for, the element that disrupted my careful plans. Crane took a step forward. Thompson raised his weapon, but Crane kept his hands visible. Do you know why you were added to this operation, Agent Chen? Why someone from the director's office personally intervened to put you on Morrison's team? Sarah's grip tightened on her weapon. I assumed it was random. Nothing at this level is random. You were placed here specifically by someone who knew I'd been watching your office, who knew I'd have contingencies in place. Crane smiled. You were meant to be my fail-safe. The one person I hadn't planned for, inserted at the last moment to throw off my calculations. That's impossible! Nobody knew your plan. Someone did. Someone at the very top of your organization knew I was running a game, knew I'd prepared for a standard operation. So they changed the game on me. Crane glanced at his watch. 90 seconds until the upload completes. Here's my offer. I give you the code to stop the transfer. In exchange, you let me walk away from here. No pursuit, no tracking, clean break. That's not happening, Thompson said. Then in 90 seconds, every deep cover operative your agency runs will be compromised. Every source, every asset, every informant. Their names, locations, everything. How many people will die because you wouldn't let one traitor escape? Sarah's phone buzzed. Davis was texting her. Director says whatever you need to do, stop that upload. Morrison's voice came through Sarah's earpiece. Command, we're 5 minutes out. Can you hold? 5 minutes was too long. The upload would complete in less than 2. Sarah looked at Crane, standing calmly by his car, holding all the cards. He'd manipulated them perfectly, led them into a situation where letting him go seemed like the only option. But something still bothered her. The whole elaborate setup, the planning, the resources required. All of it just to escape one operation. That didn't match Crane's profile. He was paranoid but also practical. This level of complexity had to serve a bigger purpose. "You're not trying to escape," Sarah said slowly. "If you just wanted to run, you'd have disappeared weeks ago. This whole thing, the upload, the chase, it's another distraction." Crane's smile faltered slightly. "Clever girl. You wanted us here at this specific location at this specific time. The upload is real, but it's not your main objective." Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities. "What's really happening?" 60 seconds, Crane said, checking his watch. "Are you going to let people die to find out?" Sarah looked at Thompson. He was watching her, waiting for her decision. Morrison and the teams were still minutes away. Headquarters couldn't stop the upload. Everything depended on what she did in the next few seconds. She thought about her training, about the 2 years of waiting and background checks. She thought about Morocco, about being blamed for someone else's mistakes, about the mysterious order that put her on this mission. Someone high up had believed she could handle this, had known she'd be the one standing here making this choice. "Thompson, contact Morrison," Sarah said. "Tell him to check the compound. Tell him to search everything, especially that basement tunnel." "I think Crane left something behind." "What are you talking about?" Thompson asked. "He needed us to find that tunnel, needed us to pursue him through it. The IED, the chase, all of it was to make us commit resources to specific locations." Sarah raised her weapon, aiming at Crane. "What did you leave in that basement? What are we not seeing?" Crane's expression shifted, the calm facade cracking. "You should be worrying about the upload." "The upload is a countdown timer. It's meant to keep us focused on you while something else happens." Sarah's finger moved to the trigger. Last chance. "What did you leave behind?" "Morrison, check the basement now," Thompson transmitted urgently. "Chen thinks there's a secondary threat." On Sarah's phone, Davis was shouting for her attention. The upload was at 90%. 30 seconds left. Everyone was screaming for her to make a deal, to save the assets, to stop the data dump. But Sarah kept her weapon trained on Crane. Because if she was right, if this was all misdirection, then making a deal with him wouldn't stop what was really coming. And if she was wrong, she'd just doomed dozens of agents for nothing. 20 seconds, Crane said. His hand moved toward his pocket. Thompson tensed, but Crane slowly pulled out a phone. "Last chance, Agent Chen. Save your people or satisfy your curiosity. You can't do both." "Morrison, status," Sarah said into her radio. "We're entering the basement tunnel now," Morrison responded. Static and echoing footsteps. "It's pretty torn up from the firefight. Lots of debris, structural damage." He paused. "Wait, there's something here. Wiring, looks like. Leading deeper into the tunnel. Brooks, get the bomb tech over here now." Sarah's heart stopped. "Morrison, evacuate. Get everyone out of that compound." "What are you?" Morrison stopped. "Oh God, this whole section is rigged. The firefight must have damaged the detonator." "Chen, how did you know?" "Because Crane wanted you there," Sarah said, her weapon still locked on the former agent. "He needed you in that basement, in that tunnel. The whole operation was designed to put your teams in a kill zone." Crane's expression went cold. 10 seconds on the upload. "Make your choice, Morrison. Can you defuse it?" Sarah asked. "Not in time. We're evacuating now. Alpha team, Bravo team, pull back from the compound. Move, move, move." Davis was screaming on Sarah's phone. 5 seconds until the upload completed. 5 seconds to decide between saving operational secrets or saving the team members still near the compound. Sarah looked at Crane and saw the truth in his eyes. He'd expected her to make the deal, had planned for her to stop the upload by giving him the code. But the code wouldn't stop the explosion. It would probably trigger it, eliminating both the evidence and the witnesses while he escaped in the chaos. No deal, Sarah said. She squeezed the trigger twice. Both shots hit Crane's phone, shattering it in his hand. He dove back toward his car, but Thompson was already moving, tackling him to the ground before he could reach another weapon. The upload completed. Sarah heard Davis shouting about data breach protocols and compromised assets, but she was focused on her radio, listening to Morrison's team evacuate the compound. "We're clear," Morrison reported, breathless. "Everyone's out. The bomb's still counting down. 60 seconds, maybe less. Get to minimum safe distance," Sarah ordered. The explosion lit up the night sky 30 seconds later. Through the drone feed on her phone, Sarah watched the compound collapse. The basement tunnel caving in, destroying everything Crane had rigged. If Morrison's team had stayed, if they'd been in that tunnel trying to defuse the device, they'd all be dead. Thompson had Crane in handcuffs now, the former agent silent and defeated. Sarah holstered her weapon, her hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. "Chen," Davis's voice came through her phone. "The upload completed. We're assessing the damage now." "What happened?" "We stopped the primary threat, sir. Crane had rigged the compound to explode. The upload was a distraction to keep us focused on the wrong thing, and you chose to let the upload complete rather than make a deal." "Yes, sir." "I did." There was a long pause. Then Davis said, "The director wants to see you when you get back. And Chen, good work." Morrison's voice came through the radio. "Command, all teams are accounted for. Minor injuries, nothing serious." "That was too close." Another pause. "Chen, I don't know how you figured that out, but you saved our lives." "Thank you." Sarah sat down heavily against the van. Thompson was loading Crane into the back, reading him his rights. Dawn was starting to break over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The operation was over. Crane was in custody. The team was safe. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. "Well done, Agent." Sarah stared at the message. Someone from the director's office. Probably. The person who'd inserted her into this operation, who'd somehow known she'd be needed. She wanted to be angry about the manipulation, about being used as a chess piece in a larger game. But she was too tired. 2 hours later, the convoy rolled back into the agency compound. Sarah's colleagues met them in the parking lot, curious and congratulatory. The story was already spreading. Chen had figured out Crane's real plan. Chen had saved the team. Chen wasn't just some analyst pushed aside after Morocco. She was the agent who'd seen what everyone else missed. Morrison approached her as she was unloading equipment. "Chen, a word?" They walked away from the crowd. Morrison looked exhausted, soot-stained, and more serious than Sarah had ever seen him. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I treated you like dead weight, like a political insertion I had to tolerate. I was wrong. You were protecting your team," Sarah said. "I understand that, maybe. But I should have trusted that someone put you there for a reason." Morrison extended his hand. "Next time I run an operation, I want you on my team. Not because some order from above says so, but because you're good at this." "Really good." Sarah shook his hand. "I'd like that, sir." Later, in the debriefing room, Sarah sat across from Davis and 2 officials from headquarters she didn't recognize. They reviewed every moment of the operation, analyzing decisions, dissecting outcomes. The data uploaded compromised some assets, but most had been pulled to safety before the information could be acted upon. The damage was manageable, especially compared to what would have happened if Crane's bomb had killed an entire tactical team. "The director will see you now," one of the headquarters officials said when the debriefing ended. Sarah followed him through corridors she'd never accessed before, into the executive section of the building. The director's office was exactly what she expected. Elegant, organized, walls covered with commendations and photos with important people. Director Sarah Williamson stood when Chen entered. She was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Agent Chen," she said. "Please, sit." Sarah sat, her heart pounding. The director's office. 24 hours ago, she'd been processing background checks in a forgotten corner of the building. Now she was here. I'm sure you have questions, Williamson said. Starting with why I personally ordered you onto Operation Lighthouse. Yes, ma'am. Victor Crane was one of mine. Years ago, before he went rogue, I was his handler. I knew how he thought, how he planned. Williamson poured water from a pitcher, offered Sarah a glass. When our intelligence suggested he'd be at that compound, I knew it was too convenient. Crane doesn't make mistakes like that. You thought it was a trap? I was certain it was a trap. But I couldn't prove it, couldn't explain how I knew without revealing operational details I wasn't cleared to share. So I needed someone on that team who would look deeper, who wouldn't accept the obvious answer. Williamson smiled slightly. I reviewed every analyst in the regional office. Your record stood out. Morocco showed me you don't accept blame for things that aren't your fault. Your file showed me you keep studying, keep training, even when no one's watching. You were exactly what I needed. Use me as insurance, Sarah said. I gave you an opportunity, Williamson corrected. And you exceeded every expectation. You analyzed the situation correctly, made the right calls under pressure, and saved lives. That's why you're here. The director stood and walked to her window, looking out over the compound. The intelligence community is about to face its biggest challenge in decades. New threats, new technologies, conflicts that will require operators who can think independently and act decisively. She turned back to Sarah. I need people I can trust in critical positions. People who've proven they can see what others miss. Sarah's pulse quickened. What are you offering? A transfer to headquarters. Direct assignment to a task force I'm building. Complex operations, high-level intelligence work, the kind of missions that matter. Williamson returned to her desk. You'd report directly to me. No more background checks, no more break room waiting. Real work, real responsibility. It was everything Sarah had wanted. Everything she'd been working toward for 2 years of frustration and dead-end assignments. The validation she'd needed, the proof that Morocco hadn't defined her career. When do I start? Sarah asked. Williamson smiled. Monday in Chen. Welcome to the real game. Sarah left the director's office in a daze. She walked through the building, seeing it with different eyes now. The knowing looks from senior agents, the whispers that followed her. She wasn't the analyst who got screwed over anymore. She was the operative who'd saved Operation Lighthouse, who'd seen through Crane's deception, who'd been personally selected by the director. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patel heard the news. Drinks tonight to celebrate? Sarah smiled and typed back, Yes, I'm buying. She stopped at her desk to collect her things. The small cubicle that had been her prison for 2 years looked different now. Not smaller exactly, but temporary. A place she was leaving behind. Her computer showed 3 new assignments waiting for her attention. Background checks. All of them. Sarah looked at them for a moment, then closed the files. Someone else could handle those now. She had a new mission starting Monday, a new position, a new future. As she packed her belongings, Sarah thought about the text she'd received after the operation. Well done, Agent. The director had been watching the entire time, monitoring the mission, trusting Sarah to do what needed to be done. She locked her desk and headed for the exit. Morrison was in the parking lot, loading equipment into his truck. He saw Sarah and waved. She waved back, thinking about his offer to join his next operation. Maybe she would, depending on what the director had planned. The sun was fully up now, bright and warm. Sarah drove home feeling lighter than she had in years. The waiting was over. The doubting was over. She'd proven herself not just to the agency, but to herself. Morocco was finally behind her. On Monday, she'd start fresh. New office, new responsibilities, new challenges. But for now, Sarah let herself enjoy the victory. She'd been tested, pushed to make impossible choices, forced to trust her instincts when everyone else was screaming different directions. And she'd been right. That was what mattered most. In the moment when it counted, when lives hung in the balance, she'd seen the truth and acted on it. That was what being an agent meant. Not the glamour or the recognition, but the ability to see clearly when everything else was chaos. Sarah smiled as she pulled into her apartment complex. Tonight she'd celebrate with friends. Tomorrow she'd start preparing for Monday. But right now, in this moment, she allowed herself to feel proud. She wasn't on the roster until the order came from above. But she'd proven she belonged there all along, and that was just the beginning.